Yo, baby, Tim Roy on the call right here on 95.7 The Game. And the Warriors get a much-needed victory. Oh, we all needed that one. And what do you know? They beat the Sixers tomorrow. They'll have a winning road trip. They'll clinch a winning road trip. Steph and Curry. You heard the shot right there, 12 of 24. 29 points, JK. Jonathan Kuminga. There's a conversation to be had there. A lot of slander came his way. 28 big ones yesterday, 10 to 12 for the free throw line, a double-double. Pajimski continues to shine. Obviously, Klay Thompson we'll get into. But good morning, Shaska. What's going on, man?
Good morning, and I'm glad you started with Jonathan Kuminga. I know we'll get into the whole Super Bowl media day today, and it's, we're inching closer to this big one. I'm very excited to talk to Baldy today. He comes up at 7:30. But watching Jonathan Kuminga, the athleticism is so, it's eye-popping. The discernment, his ability to go from 0 to 100 in the open court is just something they have never had with this team. Like, maybe going back to Jay Rich, you know what I mean? Like a guy who could just yam on anyone. Obviously, the free throws are a huge element because when you're clutch, he had some fourth quarter free throws late.
Huge.
I thought at the end of the third quarter and at the beginning of the fourth quarter, he kind of put his stamp on the game. Yep. A couple of transition plays, a couple of nice rebounds, scoring in the paint. They had 70-something points in the paint.
72 points in the paint, 72 to 38, and JK set the tone in the third quarter with 2 monster dunks.
Yes.
And even at the beginning of the game, you saw a shift in the Warriors' pecking order offensively. The offense ran through JK. Whether it was in the split action, mid-post, and he's given the Warriors something they haven't quite had since Kevin Durant. A guy you could just give the ball to and say, go get me a bucket.
Yes, that's true. Very different from KD.
Very different from KD. But
you're right. No,
but basically the same premise.
That's a good point.
Can you go get me a bucket, set up in the mid-block, 10 feet out, hit the fadeaway? JK, we all knew he had this. Not everybody knew he had this potential. He's taking a lot of rocks and a lot of people. A lot of people threw stones at him. A lot of people. Well, he's here now.
Agreed.
And so 28 points, 10 rebounds, the whole double-figure stat, 27 straight games with at least 10 points. Let's just throw that away. That's a given now. Talk to me when he doesn't score 20.
Is he there? Okay, Draymond's so important. You can't quantify all the... Dre had some pocket passes that were just sick to JK underneath the hoop. Is he their second-best player right now? Right now, the last couple weeks?
His January was the best January he's had in his career. So right now, he is playing... Draymond's playing some good defense, but I think he's struggling.
I feel like I'm slandering Dre when I say that.
But no, I don't really get caught up who's the first-best player, second-best player, third-best player.
He's their second-most reliable scorer.
But you know what? He is their guy where you can dump him the ball. Hey, go get me a foul call.
Yes.
Go get me a bucket.
Yes.
Go put pressure on the rim. Get to the rack. Run on the break. Crash the glass. He's giving you all those elements here, and he's growing by the game, growing by the possession, and he's winning over the trust of Draymond Green and Stephen Curry. Finally, one of the youngsters has meshed with the veterans, and the veterans have embraced Jonathan Kuminga, saying, you know what? You're pretty damn good. Yeah. Come carry us for a stretch.
Yeah, it's really exciting watching his maturation. We all saw, I think most people saw the raw abilities.
Right.
The stuff that didn't show up in the box score that we've been talking about, dude, his help defense was so much better.
He was tenacious.
So much better. His on-ball defense, I think, has always been really good. He's rebounding. I think he's around the ball more in terms of rebounding. It looks like he's boxing out more. And then can I throw in 2 other guys who I think are playing just really smart? I just say smart, instinctual basketball. Pajemski and Guy Santos? Pajemski's played pretty good ball this year. Guy Santos? So many hustle effort plays on the second effort rebounds where he's tipping it and going up. I don't know what he'll end up being. He feels like a role guy. But Pajemski as a second playmaker off the bench, I like what the young guys have kind of given to this team right now.
Well, he started yesterday, Brandon Pajemski, in place of Andrew Wiggins. Pods had a really good floor game. I thought he was stellar. Rebounding, pushing the pace. Look, he's got to learn how to catch and shoot. And teams are going to give him these open shots, and he's got to hit these open shots. He was 0-4 for the three-point line. I didn't like the fact that he missed the 2 flagrant free throws. Shots got to get a little better.
Claxton, what are you doing?
But you know what? Pajemski's feel for the game.
Yes.
I'm not mad at that. Not mad at that at all.
I feel like I'm getting a little sourpuss here. CP3 is going to come back. You would think at some point. GP2 is going to come back at some point. that's going to cut into Pods' playing time. I don't think Pods is going to be an all-star at some point. Maybe he is. I mean, there was a point in time I didn't think Steph Curry would turn into the top 10 player of all time. And I don't want to put shackles on the young man of Podziemski and try to say what he's not, but I want to see him continue to play this year. And I'm fearful that some of these vets are going to return and maybe he loses some of his run and some of his pecking order.
Let's see what happens at the deadline.
Okay.
Let's see what happens at the deadline. You know, I'm not saying Chris Paul's going to get traded, but I have a hard time. You know, Chris Paul's been very good for the Warriors this season.
Agreed.
But there is a pace issue when he does play.
Yeah.
There's also a clutch issue when he does play because he's a guy who's not going to turn the ball over. He's going to get you in the right spots.
Good point.
So I don't know what happens, but I think Steve Kerr now, and I think he's proven it on this road trip to the last 3 games. I'm closing with certain guys. Finally, Steve Kerr said, I got a feel for the game. I need to close with who I close with. So last night, and we'll get to the Klay clip. Klay Thompson didn't close. Klay Thompson attempted 1 shot in the second half. Now, he didn't play 30 minutes. But it was obvious that game he didn't have it. And it's been a tough stretch for him. You know, the last 8 games have been horrific for Klay Thompson. He's played a lot. He's only missed 2 games. You wonder if the back-to-backs are starting to get to him. But, boy, after the game, he said some things. And the body language really, it didn't concern me, but I felt for him. Because the same slander that went Jonathan Kuminga's way last season. A lot of people try to tell me that Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome deserve to play over Jonathan Kuminga. A lot of people who were privileged enough to have microphones in front of their face and do shows tried to slander Kuminga and say he was immature, he couldn't play, he was unplayable, he didn't have a good IQ, he wasn't smart enough, he doesn't pass, doesn't rebound. Well, those people are now the same people who are ridiculing Klay Thompson left and right. And look, we know what Klay is right now. He's a shooter. That's about it. It's not the same guy. It's not the same guy who could defend. Now, I do like the way he grabbed rebounds yesterday.
That's what I was going to say.
He boxed out 6
I thought he had a couple nice passes to Looney, and Looney missed a couple layups. But I don't know. I feel
he sacrificed shots this season.
Yeah.
But I just what irks me about the Klay dialogue is we're going to do one of our own like that.
Well, that's the thing.
This guy helped you win 4 championships. This guy gave his ACL, his Achilles for this organization. He's embraced the Bay Area. He's a statue guy. And you know what? That sucks. That sucks from a fan base. Like, this is how we're going to do Klay Thompson. We know what he is. We knew he was never going to be that best player. And he knows that he's not that best player anymore. But some of the dialogue around Klay Thompson is just nasty.
I would preach empathy to everyone out there. Like, just, you know, it's really, you're calling it nasty, disgusting. The part that I struggle with, stop screaming. And we did this with JK when JK was on the bench. And JK hasn't accomplished a tenth of what Klay Thompson has in the NBA or for the Warriors. But we'll take these screenshots and we'll throw them on the internet, and we'll take these little clips and these videos, and they go viral. And I look at some of the comments, and the humanity is lacking when we're talking about some of these guys. And I know that I've critiqued Klay at times. I feel tremendously bad for the guy. I mean, I just do. I feel really bad for him. He's going through a tough time right now. I know that he was interviewed in the locker room, and the thing that I saw was I saw a human who's going through a tough time right now, and I thought he had tremendous courage to be honest. And sometimes honesty, people want to dissect it a million different ways. And I felt bad for him. I feel really bad for him.
Well, the guy's been honest the whole time, which for me, which is why, you know, I get labeled as a Klay apologist and all this stuff. But I'm just like, what more do you want from an athlete as a fan? He gives you honesty. Mm-hmm. He lets you know how you feel. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. Don't we want that from our athletes? Don't we want that? What happened to loyalty? A guy who was homegrown, drafted. Memories we'll be talking about 20 years from now, Klay's a part of.
Of course.
Some of our best basketball memories. You know,
he's the greatest two-guard in Warrior history.
Not even close. Not even close.
You know?
So I just see some of the stuff where we got to kick somebody down when they're down. And last year was JK. Last year was Moody. And the dialogue about Jonathan Kuminga, oh, boy. Jonathan Kuminga is proving a lot of people wrong. A lot of people. But why do we do this as sports fans?
Do you think it's a large segment? Because I don't think it's the largest segment. I think it's a loud segment. I don't think it's a large segment.
Well, I don't know. I have no idea. We take a lot of calls, and a lot of people say Klay needs to take a lesser role. Well, I've watched Klay Thompson sacrifice shots this season. Yeah. Now, at times he chucks shots up. You're like, why are you forcing it? But the numbers are down in terms of shot selection, shot attempts, three-point attempts. And look, he's shooting 37.5%, which is a career low. A lot of people will take 37.5%. You know what I'm saying?
Are you kidding me?
This is the drop-off, though,
Andrew
with Klay
Wiggins
Thompson
would take that.
So when he's sitting there on the bench and he's distraught, it's not that he doesn't want to celebrate his teammates because he mentioned it after the game, but he's having a reflection of himself, thinking like, damn, man, is this it for me? Am I ever going to get back to the player that I once was? Like the harsh reality of what it is. And you bake into the fact that he doesn't have a contract. He may be playing his last 40 games in a Warrior uniform. We don't know.
That's heartbreaking.
That's heartbreaking for somebody like that. When you 13 years.
I mean, you were drafted. I call 21-year-olds, they're basically kids. I know that they're adults and they can go to war for this country and you can buy an alcoholic beverage and you can buy cigarettes and all those. Like, I understand. But to me, a 21, 22-year-old's still a kid, right?
Yep.
On a level. You go from a kid to a grown man in an organization. He spent more time there than he did even in grammar school.
Right.
You know what I mean? If he went to one grammar school all the way from first grade all the way through. Like, I have tremendous empathy for what he's going through right now. In a way, there are two guys that it reminds me of. Like, there's a clear Navarro Bowman parallel when it comes to the body just giving out on you. Yep. And I felt so bad for him at that point in time. The other guy who I was thinking about, and this is more basketball, is like Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony had a very difficult time adjusting to not being the best player on the team. Now, Klay wasn't Steph, but he's very close. I mean, very close.
Right.
And I think this is me. People can disagree. I think the hardest thing in sports is to go when at the top level from like a 98 overall. We're going video games here. A 98 overall down to like an 88.
Right.
When you're an 88 or an 85 and you're a role player, like an Iguodala, he comes to the Warriors as a role player. I think it's easier for your skills to diminish down into the high 70s and you become like a 78 overall. I think it's easier for you to acquiesce. I think it's really hard to go from a 98 overall down to an 85 or an 86. I just think that's a big drop.
He can't even guard guys with quickness anymore. And it's sad to watch him try to guard guys at the point of attack. It's just not there. So they'll figure it out. And, some of the rhythm and some of the rotations and some of the inconsistencies with the lineups have affected him. It's affected everybody at some point in time when you got guys in and out of the lineup and you're playing with different guys. But he took one shot in the second half, and I thought, look, he played 30 minutes. It's not like he only played 15. It just didn't close. And finally, Steve Kerr, in 2 to 3 games on this road trip, has had a great feel for the team, saying, I need to close with this lineup to go get a win. And I have no problem with that, but I do want to play Klay here reacting to everything that happened. Here's Klay Thompson on not closing the game last night.
What are they talking about? You ain't played to finish the game? I got to finish the game and follow the response. Who the cares?
Well, I haven't asked that yet.
Huh?
I haven't asked it yet.
Oh, you might be about to. I'm asking you for real. Already.
You didn't feel so. That's obviously going to be a story. It's all good.
These guys played great. He played great. BP, Johnston, and Dave, winning troops all.
Is this an adjustment for him a little bit? I mean, he's done it a few games, obviously.
Yeah. Kidding me? Go from one of the best players. It's hard for anybody. I'll be honest with you.
I wanted to get
the visual of it, the body language was, gosh, that stole the show after a win, a much needed win. And you just look at the face, you look at the expressions, and the reality of you may not be back here. The reality of, boy, you can't do much unless people create for you, which is why going to another team may be best for him. And the read and react system may be a thing of the past. But boy, he was down and out. You hear Steve Kerr. Here's Steve Kerr on stand with the hot hand.
If a group's playing well, you just stay with that group. That's kind of a general rule. And so we stayed with the group because they were really competing and making plays, and they had the momentum. So I didn't want to stop the momentum.
And finally, Steve Kerr has gone to that route because we see Sacramento when Moody hits 4 threes in the fourth quarter. You come back with Wiggins. And I thought, boy, you came back with Wiggins, but Moody should have been subbed out. It should have been Klay Thompson. Said that in real time. Finally, Steve Kerr just, hey, man, I need to win games. So it doesn't matter. He said it at the beginning of the season. It's not about feelings. It's about who's rolling right now. Guy Santos was rolling. Klay wasn't.
So, like, no, he was. Like, if you take a short-term view, like, within that game, Guy was giving them a lot of second-effort plays. Like, I wrote his name down over and over and over in that fourth quarter because of his effort. And he got some big rebounds, and he's a really good help defender. He does a great job moving his feet with his hands up. But, like, zoom out a little. Guy Santos is playing at the end of the game over Klay Thompson. Like, I can understand that's a tough pill to swallow if you're Klay. Like, and I'm not ripping Guy Santos, but come on, where was this guy a month ago?
I mean, where was he a week ago?
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So
but Klay still got 30
have tremendous
minutes.
empathy for
Klay still got his 30.
I know, but you said at the beginning of the year, closing there's a badge of honor for these guys closing, and there's a pecking order. It is a very macho. I don't know, man.
It's about being on the floor. Saying, hey, I impacted the game.
Hubris.
I was in the last 5 minutes, which I always thought was the biggest thing coming into the season. Everybody was fixated on who starts. It's about who's finishing. Klay's starting, but he's not finishing, and that's bothering him. Let's go to Nick in San Jose. Nick in San Jose. Good morning, brother.
Hey, guys. I'm, first of all, really happy for you with the Niners and everything, and I'm pulling for them even though I bleed silver and black. I also want to say to you, you guys have brought such a humanity to this Klay situation, and he will be a statue. My son, even though he's 8 years old, has his signed jersey in his room, and I'm so thankful for him. Now, what Klay can control is his body language, and he can control still being a leader among the other players. And I'm sad that last night is a needed win, and it kind of gets, again, devoured by, Klay's feelings. But he's a human, and I get that, so I'm trying to be empathetic. Unless Dunleavy gets a third serious score and all Klay has to do is read and react and do a couple dribbles, he can't close games. He just can't close games because if he was even 60% of the old Klay, we win the Hawks game a few days ago. So my question is, fellas, what do we do by Thursday to really get a third score to change his team? Because from my perspective, and I hate to say this about Looney as well, I love him. I say you keep Kuminga, you keep Curry, and you keep Dre. And you, other than that, I'm open to getting rid of everyone. And I'd love your thoughts on that, guys, because let's face it, we're maybe a 7 to 9 seed team right now. And there's no way we can go all the way.
Well, I thanks for the call, Nick. If you're asking me, do you trade Klay Thompson? I don't know how you do that.